You're listening to For the Republic, a love letter to Star Wars animation.
Hello there.
All right, welcome back to a special episode of For the Republic, a love letter to Star Wars animation. It's been a bit. I apologize for that one. We've been hit with like the worst string of bad luck the past few weeks and just like not being able to record at the same time, but we are here for our full, very late series recap of Obi-Wan Kenobi here on the podcast. If you have not taken the time to listen to our episodic recaps that we did one for each episode of the series. They're available on the podcast feed. Check those out. I had a great time doing those. It's just Connor and I today because everyone else could not make it, but we are here because we need to talk Kenobi and keep going. So how are you today? It's been a couple weeks since we recorded.
It's been a while. Yeah, I'm pretty good. I work today was all right. The heat was just killing me, so I was just really pissed off.
It's terrible.
So naturally, what I do to sort of take out my anger is to run. And so I ran a pretty quick 2 miles, quicker than I anticipated, but it felt really good and it felt really right to do so.
Well, that's good.
I'm trying to get back into running once again.
Yeah, it's pretty hot here today too, and of course I had to shut off my AC in my room for this episode so it wouldn't get in the background. So we're gonna be suffering, but we'll get through it because if it's just two of us, I doubt we're gonna go 3 hours like we probably would if there was 4 of us here.
And you never know.
You never know. I really hope not. But, you never know. When we start talking about Kenobi, it just never ends at points.
It spirals.
It just spirals into something else. So, a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. The last time we had an episode was before I announced our big new thing on the 4th, which is we're going to be starting a new monthly interview series called Galactic Senate Sit-Downs. I'm going to be talking to a different member of the Star Wars community every month, and we're going to be talking about our journeys into the fandom, what made us fans, our favorite aspects of it, and just have a great conversation each and every month. That was supposed to premiere at the end of this month, however, because of some personal stuff and just not having the time and then just scheduling conflicts, we are going to be pushing that until next month. So you're still gonna see that show, but it is going to be in August rather than sometime in July. I think that's actually gonna work out for the better because July has been way busier than I was expecting for myself, and it's been hard enough to just get this show recorded. We've been trying to record this episode for literally, I feel like 3 weeks. It's just been probably more than that. It's been like, all right, let's get it done.
A while.
And then I got sick, Jake got sick, Don got sick, and then I had work, and it's just been a complete. And then Chloe had a lot of stuff with work, so it's just been not easy to get stuff recorded. But that's gonna come in August. We also have some other stuff coming down the pipeline, and then our regular Clone Wars show will be returning after this episode. Hopefully we can get something next week because that has been on the back burner since the last 2 episodes of Kenobi have kind of taken up our time.
The whole reason for this podcast.
Yeah, exactly. That's going to get back. The thing that we started in the first place is going to get back then. But then we'll get back to that. And then right around the corner, it's going to be Andor. So we'll be right back to this. And then I'm sure we can talk about this near the end, but you have had the chance to talk about Kenobi in full lately because you, with the Nerd Academy, had Alex and Miley Damon of Star Wars Explained on. I watched that whole episode. What was that like? Just tell me what that was like, getting to collab with them, because that just seems like such a surreal experience to me because they've been two of my favorite content creators for years now. So what was that like? Describe how that went.
I think surreal is probably the best way to put it. I still don't know how my co-host Jared did it. He is just a wonderful human being, and the pulls he sort of has in this fandom surprise the heck out of me. And so, actually, that wasn't the first time they've been on KNR. The first time they actually were on was to talk High Republic, but I had a family
Yeah, I was
wedding
gonna
to
say,
go
did
to,
you
so
did
I
you
was
make it for
unable
that
to.
one?
I wish I did, because apparently in the first like 10 minutes, Alex Damon started trying to talk Fallen Order, and I'm like, man, if I was on, this would have turned into a Fallen Order
Yeah,
episode
there was a couple
really quickly.
points where both of you started going deep into Fallen Order, and I was like, "Uh oh, this is gonna go 3 hours."
I was like, yeah,
But yeah, no, that
so
was.
it's just surreal.
It's been
And
there was that, and then Austin got
wow.
the shout out on their Q&A a couple weeks ago, so it's just been like the whole SWE crew has just been living it up lately, which I loved. And then
We're killing it,
you had
man.
the whatever the OT uh trivia championship you did, because I watched that too,
Yeah,
and that
yeah.
was
Radio
Radio
Rebellion.
Rebellion. That's what it
Radio
was.
Rebellion. The good podcast.
Yeah,
Um, yeah,
that was awesome.
that was insane.
I went into that. I was like, oh yeah, I'll probably get most of these questions right. I think I got 6 right in the whole the whole thing. But
It's hard.
I gotta rewatch the original trilogy is my thing. Like prequels, sequels, I could probably kill it. Clone Wars, definitely. OT,
I have
I've
to actually rewatch the prequels.
I have.
Like
It's so weird
I
because I have rewatched the original trilogy dozens of times. It's been in my life since I was 4 years old. But some of those deep cut questions in the original trilogy, I just can't pull like I can with the prequels and the animation stuff.
for me it's the prequels. Like I have trouble with it, even though like I've watched them a
No,
lot, and I
I can
really love that trilogy,
any
and I
random
grew up
shit from
with
the
it too.
prequels I can probably pull, but it's I don't know, some of like
I
the
mean, for
call
me, my
sign.
biggest is like Padme's
Yeah,
handmaidens.
I
I
really
cannot tell
struggle
them
with
apart.
like a lot of original trilogy trivia I've noticed is like call sign numbers and like the docking bay stuff and like holding cell stuff. That's the stuff I struggle with. But like prequels, because there's less of that, and it's more of just what's this planet or who's this obscure background Jedi. I can pull that shit. But I don't know. When we eventually do the For the Republic trivia tournament that I've been wanting to do, we'll see who wins that. But yeah, so that was a little bit of housekeeping. We've been keeping busy the last few weeks, even though we haven't been able to record the main show. But we are back. So let's talk Kenobi. We're going to be going through our full series thoughts, what we really like, what stood out to us, what maybe didn't, and our overall last minute or not last minute, but just overall thoughts on the series. A few weeks out after the finale, now that we're kind of falling off that high of the series, getting to revisit the whole series. I think 3 weeks after the finale originally aired. Let's do it. So, for starters, when this show first ended, when we did our part 6 recap, which again you can check out, it's one of my favorite ones that we've ever done, were the part 5 and the part 6 recap. I confidently said that it was my favorite live action project that Lucasfilm has done since the Disney acquisition. I'm still sticking by that. I'm at least gonna say that it's definitely my favorite of the live action series so far. Like I love Mando, I really like Book of Boba Fett, but this felt the most up my alley for me. This was the one that connected for me the most. This was the fan service I felt was done right. It wasn't like hitting you over the face or anything like that. I really loved the writing of the series, the character development, Obi-Wan's overall arc, than having Leia, Reva, the path. All of that stuff has really, really worked for me, and I have not been able to stop thinking about it since then. And now my mind is on the, all right, well, if we're not going to get a second season, which we don't even know if that's going to be the case, what other stories can we tell? Can we get more Leia? Can we get more Reva? Can we get some path stories? So that's where I've been in the mindset of the past few weeks of just kind of trying to absorb everything and get my thoughts there. But I at this point I'm still pretty much comfortably saying that this is my favorite of the live action shows that we've had.
Yeah, that's a pretty good. I respect that. That's a pretty good
Mm-hmm.
opinion to have, I would say. I think I'm in the same boat, but it's weird. Even though I can't speak today, even though the show is over, there are times where I think back on it and I'm like, I wish they did this a little differently. Or I wish they did that. And it's like, why am I thinking this? This is weird. And like, it's probably because like, even though I said, oh, I didn't really have any expectations for this show, it was probably the case of like, I didn't really expect it to be a planet hopping adventure. And I would have.
Because yeah,
I don't really know
a
what
lot
I
of
was.
us were kind of expecting the bulk of this show to take place on Tatooine, and we got
Yeah,
one at the beginning, and then half of the finale was on Tatooine. So it was a bit different, and I feel like everyone's expectations were subverted. But I think it worked. I think it really worked.
same.
I'm glad this was the story they went with because what could you do with 6 episodes on Tatooine? And honestly, because we've had a couple of interviews with some of the screenwriters when this was supposed to be a film, Stuart Beattie has gone on to say like some of the original stuff that was planned, like there was supposed to be a extended action scene with Vader taking down multiple Jedi, and Commander Cody was supposed to play a role. That one I did like. The Vader stuff and a lot of the other stuff that they've been talking about that were in the original plans, I'm glad they went with this because honestly, I don't know how I would have felt about those. Like that just felt too hitting you over the head stuff. A lot of the stuff they suggested for the
Yeah,
Vader and Kenobi fight that got scrapped when they turned this into a show, that just felt
yeah. Like
too
the
dude bro, like, oh, Vader's awesome because he's got to mow down 30,000 younglings. Like, I just wouldn't have been into that, and I'm glad that this is what they gave us. More of a character study
yeah
of
the
both Vader and
concept
Kenobi.
of yeah the just like the concept of it being on a space station sounds definitely super cool, but like Vader sort of winning because of that, I'm like,
Yeah,
maybe.
like, Don and I were the
But
only
like,
ones throughout the whole thing that were very consistent on Vader. I mean, not Vader. Kenobi was going to win the rematch of the century. And everyone else was either like, no, Vader's going to win it, or they were down the middle. But I always thought Kenobi needed to win it because it not only fits more with the A New Hope
when I
narrative,
left you,
yeah,
I was but the learner. Now I'm
but
master.
also
Which like,
I feel like it would be weird if it's his own show and it ends with him getting
and he
his ass
doesn't
kicked,
win.
and
Yeah,
it's
that's
just a
true.
very downer ending. Whereas Kenobi, there was some bittersweet stuff at the end with the fact that it's probably the last time Leia and Kenobi are going to see each other until A New Hope, which
A New
that's,
Hope.
again,
Yep.
nope, nope. As I said, my headcanon is he comes back every life day to Alderaan. I'm refusing to believe that that is the last time. We will
That
talk.
is a good
We will
headcanon to
talk
have.
more
Yeah.
about that definitely, Obi-Wan and Leia, because that is one of the absolute highlights of the series for me. But I'm glad they went with what they did. Again, having
Same.
it. Did you say it was supposed to be on like a Star Destroyer? The fight, like that would have been cool. Don
I
was
mean,
predicting
apparently,
that, but
what Stuart Beattie said was like a space station. Those were, I think, that was were his exact words, and like Vader would have pushed Obi-Wan off, and he thought, and Obi-Wan would thought to be dead, would be thought to be dead. So I was like,
yeah,
I get it, but
I
like,
mean, I don't
Vader
know.
also. Here's the
The
thing.
series
Here's the
still
actual other
ends
thing.
with the Empire not knowing that Kenobi's on Tatooine. Like that has been
Yeah,
consistent
that's
throughout.
the thing that I don't know why, but in the first episode, when the Inquisitorius is like, yeah, they're basically like, yeah, we have no idea that this guy's on Tatooine, just that like this one Inquisitor wants to find him, and she's hell bent on finding him. I was I was just fascinated by the fact that they had no clue he was on Tatooine. Because, like, I remember when the trailer came out and it showed that Reva and the fifth brother were on Tatooine, facing all, like, staring down Owen, and I'm like, they're gonna get this close to Obi-Wan and Luke Skywalker. This is wild.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, the fact that they don't know, I don't know why. It's such a simple, like, oh, this makes sense, but it just fascinates me to no end for whatever reason. I don't know why.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It's just,
And then the
ugh.
fact that like Riva came that close to actually changing everything we know. I mean, we knew she wasn't gonna get to Luke, but like the fact that they gave us that and they had that where it still felt like there were stakes there, and then of course that played into her uh, redemption at the end of the series. But again, they made a lot of choices here that I thought really, really worked. But I don't feel like they hurt anything in what we've had before. I don't think they radically changed
No,
canon. The one thing
no, literally,
it's just
if I'm being
big
honest,
overreaction. I think it's
as
enhanced.
far as I can, as far as I know, and I could be wrong on this, there's legitimately nothing in Obi-Wan Kenobi that changes even a centimeter of A New Hope.
The only thing I'd say it really
Like
does is
nothing.
it enhances the
It
scenes and the
really
dialogue
enriches that
between
movie
Leia and Obi-Wan,
and
and it
Obi-Wan,
makes everything.
which I still need to like.
I haven't done it
That's
yet.
a relationship that I still need to like just sort of come with, sort of figure out on my own terms because it's very much Obi-Wan and Leia's relationship is very much like Seer and Cal's relationship in Fallen Order to me. I know it's good. I know it's phenomenally written and just the chemistry between these two was fantastic, but I just underappreciate it
Oh, it
so
was
much.
probably my favorite part of the whole show. Like aside from the stuff between Anakin and Obi-Wan, and those
That was probably
flashbacks
my
in
favorite
Episode
part of the whole
5,
show too.
the chemistry between Vivian and Ewan was amazing, and it really enriched the two of those relationship because I always being like growing up with the original trilogy and everything, it was always Luke and Obi-Wan because that was the story that they presented for 45 years is Kenobi was always looking after Luke. And how does Revenge of the Sith end? Kenobi's looking after Luke. So then to have this whole story where he grows closer to the other Skywalker twin, I thought was something that I've seen a lot of people describe as I don't know why we didn't think of this as an option for the series, but it works so well and it was such an obvious way to go,
It does.
and it just I am just so captivated by it, and their farewell scene in the finale was one of my favorite Star Wars scenes of all time. I just love every connection they made to how much Leia is so similar to both her mother and her father. Getting Obi-Wan to actually say it and then just seeing it in person, not having to have someone tell you that, just how she acts. The first episode, she is
Yep.
100% Anakin in every single way. And then we get to see more of Padme throughout the show, more of Anakin, getting to see her stand up to Reva while she's being captured and interrogated. It was such a wonderful portrayal.
On Fortress
Yep.
Inquisitorius.
Yep. Imagine saying that 3 years ago.
Fuck. Dude, imagine like it's not even that. Oh, okay, it's that, but also just imagine saying like, "Oh yeah, Obi-Wan Kenobi kills a purge trooper." Like, what?
Yeah,
No way.
Obi-Wan Kenobi is being chased after by the Grand Inquisitor from Star Wars Rebels as he's saving Princess Leia on the fortress from Jedi Fallen Order. You're like, um, did you just put
That
something
sounds
through a
made
Mad
up.
Libs? But it works. It worked
It works
so well.
so well. I
So
think um I don't know. I'm just so captivated by the final duel that's all I've
yeah,
really been thinking about for the
no,
past
I
few
I am
weeks.
with you.
Like it was the rematch of the
It
century.
really
Like they
was.
delivered.
I don't know how. Like again, like what you want to like. If you didn't like the series, that's completely okay. But I just don't get how some people watched the finale, specifically that duel in particular, and said, "Yeah, no, that was underwhelming. That wasn't that good." Like, unless you were so 100% stuck to this narrative of I have to say this show is disappointing and it's bad because I don't want to go against everything I've been saying and everything I built this platform for 6 weeks is just hating on this shit. I don't get it because I watched that and that
Yeah.
made the prequel kid in me explode in joy. It was some of the best lightsaber choreography we've had since the Disney acquisition. And then just not only
It
just how
was
cool the fight was, but the
incredible.
story it told. That final, like you keep going on and on about the part where he's just bashing Vader in with the hilt of his saber, and then that final slash, and then the rebels parallel. Everything in that scene was great, and then that final
I'm
conversation,
gonna say it.
perfect.
I'm gonna say it right now on air. This is also for Jake because I know he's on the same mindset as me. But I'm gonna say it right
I
here,
know where you're
right
going.
now. Cause I haven't had any conversations outside of you guys, the pod about this and a few other people and other little circles, but like and obviously this conversation doesn't need to be had if it doesn't have to be, but it's just an interesting conversation that some people have put up online in good faith, where it's like, oh, which duel do you prefer? You know, Ahsoka versus Vader on Malachor and Twilight of the Apprentice, or this one because of the fact that like the opposite side of the mask is split by
Yeah,
both the
I think that
Master
was
and the
because
Padawan.
I didn't catch that the first time I watched it that it was a different side. I think that is perfect that they
It
chose to
was
do that.
beautiful, and like some people and like so people are weighing in on it, and like at first I was like I don't really know, and like don't get me wrong, I fucking love Star Wars animation. Star Wars animation is some of the best storytelling we've gotten from this franchise
That's why I
ever.
made this whole podcast was to
That's the
emphasize that.
reason for this whole podcast. It's in our name, a love letter to Star Wars animation. Um, that being said, I I think I pretty fairly prefer the Kenobi versus Vader duel over Ahsoka versus Vader, and it might just be recency bias, but also I'll just read what I have. So it'll probably change, but right now I got to go with the Kenobi duel because the fight itself I just found absolutely phenomenal and creative, and the conversation that happens after it to me does a lot more for Kenobi's character in his own show, and it hits way harder than Ahsoka and Vader's combo. Obviously, that also hits
Oh,
hard, but this
see
just hits
that is
harder on just okay, not way harder.
yeah,
Not
no,
way
the I
harder is
won't leave you
incorrect.
not this time and followed by then you will die is hard to touch. But I think just Ewan's whole breakdown, him
I
apologizing,
think it
and
also
then
helps
the
that
you
Hayden's
yeah,
under the mask.
the you
I
didn't
think
kill Anakin,
that's
I
also
did
takes the cake.
is I
Yeah,
still can't
you
stop
didn't
thinking
kill
about.
Anakin Skywalker. I did. I was like,
I'm not
fuck,
your
dude.
failure, Obi-Wan. And then then I
Yep.
know my friend is truly dead, so the parallels to Return of the
And then
Jedi,
goodbye,
Goodbye Darth.
dude.
Yeah, no, I'm
Here's
in
the
agreement with
thing.
you.
I love Goodbye Darth so much because it's like you didn't have to include they didn't
No,
have to include that. Like they did not. Like Darth you could have easily figured out like, oh yeah, 9 years go by. He just kind of like starts to call him Darth, because he's like, he's more machine now than man,
At this point,
truly
he's like,
twisted and
that's
evil.
not Anakin. That is not the man I
Yeah, it's like,
trained.
that's not
That is
Anakin.
not my brother. That is whatever warped creature Palpatine created.
Yeah,
That
and
is
it's like
consumed by the
obviously like
dark side.
1977 Star Wars, like
Like that was Vader's
that was
first name.
that was
Like,
that dude's first name.
but
And so
now,
like the fact that this show retroactively enriches that namesake is just fucking
what
wonderful. It
I what I
really
love
hits hard,
to
man.
me, it's like the other one I'm gonna bring up is more of a comedic version, but it's like how Lando in Solo calls him Han just to piss off Han.
Yes.
Like because
Yes.
Billy D
Because he
pronounced
says
it wrong
so
every goddamn
back.
time. Like it was
Yep.
like that, and that was
It's like,
played for laughs in Solo. But
it's
this,
these little details that like you don't really need to be explained, but they get explained anyway, and it's like, God damn it, that's so good.
I'm in
Oh,
agree. I
fuck.
agree with you. Like I think this as a scene is probably the better. Like don't get me wrong. This is not me saying Twilight of the Apprentice like isn't good. Like it is
Dude,
phenomenal.
Twilight of the Apprentice is god
It
tier
is
Star
it is like
Wars.
entrenched
It's
in
so
like
good.
the all-time goat like Star Wars scenes for a reason. Like literally, I look
Oh
to my
yeah.
right and I see this Ahsoka portrait I got at Celebration Chicago, and there's scenes from that on the goddamn thing. But this is gonna be that. I guarantee you, and I think it already is starting to be as iconic as it is right now because everything in it works. Just the themes, the narratives, uh, just the overall portions of the fight. The point where Vader has him down under the rocks and he's able to get out because of his belief in Luke and Leia in the future. That's what gets him to have his full
Force.
strength again. The lifting rocks scene, eat it, Last Jedi haters, and then just
So
everything
I
about the
have to
fight.
say on this, because I can't, because I think I said, I was like, oh, that looks, I thought it was a little wonky at first. And it's some of the simplest analysis I could have made on my own. But just the way it was worded, I can't find the tweet. I wish I saved it. I wish I, you know what? I'm not going to check. Not going to check. Fuck it. I got to check. I might have bookmarked it. Nah, I didn't bookmark it. There's no way I bookmarked it. But like, there was this one tweet where this person basically talked about that scene, and it sort of shows that, like, to them at least, that like no matter what, the light will always be stronger. And I'm like,
Yeah, no, that's
son
a
of a
great point.
bitch, that is like fourth grade analysis that I didn't make, and I feel so dumb. And like,
Like
just
what's
reading
always
that
been the theme is
online,
like
I was like, the light is stronger.
what's always been
The light
the
is
big
safe.
theme since Empire is the dark side isn't stronger, it's easier.
It's quicker,
Quicker,
easier,
easier.
more seductive. Yeah, I just felt like such an idiot for that, but then I was like, that's sort of. I had like a paradigm shift with that scene. I'm like, yeah, no, this scene rocks, pun intended. Um,
Yeah,
but
when I first saw it, I was like, "Oh, we're doing this." Like I was a little taken
yeah, I
aback,
was
but
like,
it
oh
like
shit.
and the overall thing it
I
works,
will
and like
say,
they've made like figures of that scene now with him lifting the rocks. I'm like, okay, no, that's awesome. I need that. Like it's just one of those like scenes that you're instantly gonna be like, okay, no, that's awesome. That is cool. That's a moment I want captured, like on my desk or on my wall.
it's yeah,
It's a really cool scene,
agreed.
and
I
just
gotta say this before I forget. I'm very shocked we haven't gotten any behind the scenes stuff yet of this
yeah.
show.
I mean, I'm
I'm
assuming we're
very
gonna get a
shocked.
Disney gallery at some point. It
I
wouldn't make
hope
sense.
we do.
I mean, they've done it for literally every other Disney Plus series, so it wouldn't make
We've
sense if
only
they don't
gotten
do it
two.
here.
Oh wait, no. Did they do it for like? Do they do it for
They
Marvel
do them for
too?
the Marvel shows, yeah. It just takes a bit. And
Okay.
then
I hope we
Boba
get it
Fett
before
got one.
Andor, because
Although I think
yeah,
that was only one. episode, right?
Yeah, that was
Because
just an
Mando
hour and a
season
half
one got
long
a full
special.
season. Did season two, was that just one, or did that
Season
get?
two was in like a 2 hour special or one and a half hour
Because
special.
I only
So I
what
really hope they give it the Mando season one treatment because out of all the shows,
this one
Kenobi
was yeah.
deserves
For
that.
full transparency, the only ones of those like Disney galleries I've seen have been the first two of Mando season one, and then I just dropped off after that. But I hear great things about them. So I will definitely watch the
They're
Kenobi
really
one,
good.
and I'll probably watch the Andor one too because of how different the production for that one has been compared to the other shows. Which Jake, if he was here, would be harping on and on about
Oh, he'd
Pinewood
harp
and
on it, and he's
yeah,
not wrong
he's
because
not
like
wrong. Like,
I'm
but
surprised that you would think that Kenobi would get the Pinewood Studios production value.
I think it. My guess is it was probably supposed to, or at least that was the original plan when it was first announced. But COVID probably changed a bunch of stuff, and
Probably.
that's probably why this was shot with the stagecraft stuff. But there were points
Yeah, and in
where
California.
it didn't work, but then there were points where I thought it really did work. Like every time they used a lightsaber as the main source of lighting in a scene, always worked for me.
Oh, that was
That is one of my new
beautiful.
favorite things they've been doing since the Disney era. Is really just emphasizing how the light of a lightsaber and how it just takes up the entire shot. And I hope they keep doing that because I have nothing
Same.
but praise from those. Like when they first did it in part 3, when Obi-Wan just ignites his saber out of fear for the first time, and we were all like, okay, how are they gonna? What's gonna be that first moment that they have him ignite the saber? Because there's got to be something big. And then it had it to be with it being that. I think it worked even more because it just showed the desperation and the fear that he has to just keep running and to not confront Vader, to just run away from his past because he wasn't at that point yet. And then to get to part 6, where we get the just the I will do what I must, that callback is still in my head after all this time.
Oh, I
It's
love it
perfect.
because
I love
like
it.
that
His journey throughout
open
the
to me.
show, perfect.
Oh yeah, because to me at least, when he says "I will do what I must," that sort of gives him some leeway, you know? Because it's like,
Yeah.
what must he do? And he doesn't say like "I'm gonna kill you." Like he doesn't say it outright. That's not it. Well, that is his objective in that current
In that
state of
current
mind.
moment, he
Like
was planning on because when he's trying to talk to Qui-Gon beforehand, it's like one of us will end
he's
up
like
like
either
one
he
of us is
dies
gonna
or I
die.
do.
Yep.
Like one of us is gonna bite it. Um, and so when he said "I will do what I must," I was like, "There's that line." I didn't realize it because at first I was like, "Oh, funny." I was like, "Oh, prequel line," but then I was like, "There's some leeway there."
Yeah.
They're like
They didn't
this
just
sort of
do
like it
it
goes
just
from
to do it.
just to do it.
Like they very easily could have made a high ground joke during that fight, but they didn't because it would have felt forced. With that,
Yep.
it was a callback that made sense, and I just really adored it. All right, so we've talked a lot about Obi-Wan's journey in this series so far. I want to talk more about Riva and the path, but before we do that, I think we need to talk about the flashbacks in episode 5 and the discourse surrounding, especially with this show in particular, people complaining or saying that the story isn't adding up before we get the full story. And I just want to take the time to say I think there are two things that need to be addressed here. The first is, while I think it worked in this series, I think that the 6-episode format that Disney is using for these Disney Plus series is really starting to show its weaknesses. With this one, I think it worked fairly well, but with a lot of the Marvel shows and with Book of Boba Fett, there was those feeling of they kind of had to rush to get everything wrapped up in the last episode. Whereas if they could have used one or two
Yep.
more episodes to really get things to work more and be more cohesive, or in Book of Boba Fett's case, one or two more episodes where they actually focused on Boba Fett, it would have been a more cohesive product. I said this when I was talking about Miss Marvel on TikTok, was the show really, really worked for me. In terms of content, it would probably be top 3, top 2 of the MCU shows, but I have it, I think, at like 4 or 5, because I just feel like the 6-episode format didn't do it justice. I felt like the story wasn't complete by the end of it, which is something that people were saying about Kenobi before they got the full story, and I just feel like certain things work really well and overshadowed or completely outshines some stuff that didn't really work, which would be a positive normally, but I just thought that they could have really used 1 or 2 more episodes for this show. So the miniseries 6-episode format, I'm not quite sure how I feel about them doing that going forward. The good news is that Andor is going to be a whopping double of that. We're going to have 12 episodes for Andor, and I think it's starting to show some cracks in the foundation with that. The other thing is these people. There are certain things that I knew from the get-go that it was going to lead to this, or I had a feeling of where it was going to go, and just saying, just trust the story, trust the storytellers. We're going on a journey here. It's a 6-episode movie, a 6-hour movie, however you want to call it. Just let the story progress. But from episode 1, I swear, and we've talked about that. We talked about it every week on the recap shows. It was, where are the Clone Wars flashbacks? Where is this? Why don't we know about Reva's story yet? Why don't we know about this? Who are these characters? Why isn't Kenobi, what we saw him in Revenge of the Sith? Why is he all broken down? And I think that the binge model of releasing shows has ruined how we watch TV. Because not having it drop all at once is just, it's hindered people's way of watching weekly releases. So now that they don't get everything explained to them immediately, or they aren't able to consume everything at once, it's hurt us. And I've seen some people argue that this show should have been dropped all at once, like a Stranger Things. But I disagree. I think the weekly format really worked for this show because it increased the hype. If it all dropped at once, we would have been hyped for 2 weeks and then never would have talked about the show ever again. Having them drop weekly has it stay in the public consciousness. You're thinking about it nonstop for a whole week, and then you get the new episode. And now look at it. 3 weeks on, 4 weeks on from the finale, we're still talking about Kenobi like it's still fresh in our mind. So, and this is 2 of us doing this where we haven't had the chance to rewatch the show in its entirety since it finished. At least I haven't. I haven't done the thing that I've been saying I really want to do. I haven't done the thing that I have said I really want to do, which is rewatch Kenobi and then jump right into A New Hope, which I think that's going to be such a rewarding rewatch. But we haven't been able to do that, and I'm still talking about this show like it just finished yesterday because it's still in my mind. And I just think that the weekly release is such a better model of releasing shows. And don't get me wrong, like, I love when Stranger Things drops and I get to watch the whole show my version of watch the whole show, which is 1 episode a day because I'm horrible at binging things. But this is just it's so much better because we've seen it with the Marvel shows, we've seen it with Mando, we've seen it with Kenobi. I think it's the better way of releasing stuff, and I think more streaming platforms need to go back to this model because it's working so much more, and it's giving these shows more time to stay in the spotlight. And I mean, I have my issues with how Disney Plus releases their stuff. Like the fact that they had Miss Marvel released the same time as Kenobi for the first half of its run, so it really got buried under all of the Kenobi hype and then barely had any time to itself, I think hurt the show's momentum. And I think they need to go into if we're going to have portions where Star Wars and Marvel have shows releasing at the same time, because I think that's going to happen with She-Hulk and Andor, and we're going to have a point during Andor where Bad Batch is airing at the same time as Andor, you need to figure out days. So you need to give Marvel Wednesdays, you need to give Star Wars Fridays, or reverse them and stick to that, because I think having these major tentpole franchises air on the same day, you're cannibalizing your own market. And I think they need to figure out a better way to release these going forward. But do not ditch the weekly release launch, because I think it works so much better. Even with like Visions, where you didn't necessarily need to release it weekly, I think they should have. Because, yeah, it was nice to watch them all in one sitting or throughout the span of a day or two. But
like no one's talking
about Visions anymore. And imagine if some of the ones that didn't immediately catch on, like the Duel or the Village Bride, if they got their own week to just be discussed, it would be different. And I just think that they need to switch things up. But now that I got off my soapbox and just got those rants out of the way, because I've been thinking about the 6-episode stuff since Miss Marvel, and just the way that I'm seeing some people like, no, they shouldn't just stop the binge format, or Obi-Wan should have been released all at once. I'm like, you're high. Like, you would have personally enjoyed it more, because your impatient ass wouldn't have had to wait 6 weeks to figure out the resolution for all these plots, and you wouldn't have made your clout chasing videos talking about how the show doesn't have a set narrative and it's not leading to anything. Where if you had just any sense of media literacy, you would have seen where it's going, or you would have trusted that we would have gotten all these answers. And what do you know, we did. And in my humble opinion, they were a very good way of telling the story. So that's my little rant here. Let's talk about something that definitely won't piss people off at all, and that's Reva. Me personally,
Reva Savander.
We've talked about Reva so much on these episodes, but let's talk about her more, because she really worked for me. And she was one of the highlights of the series.
Same.
And I loved how her arc was parallel to Obi-Wan's, and how they were both very heavily impacted by Vader, and how they both spent the last decade, Obi-Wan just soaking in his own failure and letting that eat him alive. Reva letting her own hatred consume her, because she watched her peers and her friends and her master get cut down by Vader right in front of her. And
her master got shot by clone troopers.
Her fellow younglings were killed by Vader. Yeah,
Darth Vader himself, pre-suit,
pre-crisp Vader, pre-suit.
Pre-crisp Vader honestly intrigues me. That is all I will say.
Yeah,
we could get into a whole
every single time they flashbacked to pre-suit Vader, especially when they just zoomed in on his face, I just thought it was haunting, man. Like,
oh yeah, it scares the hell out of me.
The show's use of flashbacks with that, and then the just brilliant dual flashback in episode 5, which we've talked about so much. The way that they utilized it was amazing, and it was better than any random Clone Wars like battle flashback that we were probably like headcanoning in our mind of, oh, it'd be really cool to see this. And yeah, that would have been cool. But would it have connected to the narrative at all like it did with that practice duel and like the flashbacks to the Jedi Temple did?
Probably not.
I don't think they would have, no. So with Reva, we see her introduction at the beginning, and we see that she's very, like, her anger gets the better of her. She clashes frequently with the Fifth Brother and the Grand Inquisitor. And the more and more we learn about her, we're like, okay, what's up with this Reva girl? The more and more we learn about her, we learn that her backstory, and that she joined the Inquisitorius not because she worships Vader like the others do, but because she wants to kill him. And when we see this come head-to-head in what Jake has described as his all-time favorite lightsaber duel in the entirety of Star Wars, it was such a rewarding moment. And then to get her redemption in the next episode, which I thought was done in such a...
And not die,
which was great, which was done in such a powerful way.
That's the big one.
Yeah. We finally see a villain or a dark side user get redeemed, go back to the light, and stay alive, which I think we've determined for
Well, not even
Force
not even
users
that.
is the first time it's happened in the new
She
canon.
Yeah, she is the first Force user. She's not the first one. We've seen it with
Like
Callus
Callus.
in Rebels, but Reva Savander is the first dark side Force user, as far as I know, in canon, to redeem herself and not die
Does
shortly
Quinlan
after.
Voss count?
I don't know much about Quinlan's character to really give an informed opinion on
Because he
that.
was light, then he went dark briefly in Dark Disciple, and then went back to the light by the end of the book. So I'm gonna say that doesn't, because I'll put that in like the Imri category in the High Republic, where he like was briefly
Okay,
consumed
yeah,
by
that makes
darkness
sense.
and then went back to the light. Riva, we were introduced to her as a dark side character. She spent at least a decade
Yep.
As a dark side user,
Yeah, at
and
the very
then
least.
got redeemed there. So yeah, I think that's monumental, because we've been talking on and on and on about every time we get close to seeing this type of story get told, they just cut us off right then and there. Ben Solo, anyone? So to see it happen with
Trilla.
Riva, Trilla, Ben, I can keep going. But to see it here, I think was great, and I think it's a great sign of some stuff that could be coming in the future with stories like this, to where we can see characters,
Yep.
whether they're Force users or not, get redeemed and fight on the other side of the battles, and see them fighting for good in future stories. Because even if we don't get a Kenobi season 2, I would be flabbergasted. I'm going to use words like that. I would be flabbergasted if we do not see any type of follow-up on Riva or the Path at some point in the future. Whether that's showing up in another series, whether that's getting a spin-off show, or whether that's getting books or comics. I think I would call it a foregone conclusion. Yeah, or Jedi Survivor. I would call it a foregone conclusion.
Like,
because
I don't know, but it just feels so...
It feels so right.
Deliberate.
Like you
intentional. That, like, Survivor is at the same year.
Survivor, yes. But I just don't think you can introduce a cast of characters like this, keep quite a bit of them still alive, and where you can have them be such an integral part in the rebellion, and just ignore them. Like, I feel like they're coming in the future. So I'm fully expecting them, and there is a lot of what I would love to see. I would love a story of the Path and a fully redeemed Riva helping out Jedi or Force users or people on the run from the Empire, people in need. That would be awesome. Getting to see Kenobi pop up for a couple of missions would be awesome. Because I'm sure at this point,
honestly, I hope he doesn't.
You hope he doesn't?
I hope he just stays on Tatooine.
I mean,
I
would
genuinely want this to be the only time he's like ever the fucking planet.
I would be cool.
I feel like if you do it too much, it just, like, what's the point?
Would I be cool with it? Yeah. Would I complain if it does happen? No. But I think at this point, Ewan is like, all right, find an excuse for me to come back, and I'll come back. So I just don't think that this will be the last time we ever see Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan ever again. Like, I just don't see it. I don't see that being a possibility. Especially after how well the show did. Like, him and Hayden, I think, will be back for future stories. And it doesn't necessarily have to be in this era. Like, you could go back, you could go forward. You could even do something with Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, with him trying to be a Force ghost. That would be a cool... I feel like
that's the only...
Like, going through those trials, getting to do something, like, really surreal. Getting into the inner mechanisms of the Force.
Actually, I think it was actually Alex Damon that was
Alex has
like,
brought this up a couple times.
that'd be
Yeah.
cool if we didn't. Yeah, he's like, yeah, I don't. That'd be cool if we didn't get that because like this was basically his trials. I'm like, that's a good point, actually.
Well, it was such a.
Um,
We talk about the Qui-Gon scene because we were all like, okay, when is he showing up? Because even us at the end,
I seriously thought he wasn't
are they
showing
just
up. I
not
was like,
gonna?
fuck,
They're not gonna
dude.
do it. And then at the very end, they have him show up, and it took you long enough. And then
Well, took you
Yeah.
long enough. Fucking
it's
killed
like
me.
I've always been here, Obi-Wan. You just weren't ready to see me. And
I
it's just
love that line so
such a
much.
great moment. Like I haven't gotten like
Yeah, I
full on waterworks during that moment
fucking
yet,
love
but
that line
it is such
so
a
much,
rewarding
man.
moment. And that's what I would describe quite a bit of the show and its payoff. It's so rewarding. Getting to see Qui-Gon
Yep.
show up at the very end. Getting to see Reva get redeemed and still live on to see another day and save those in need, do stuff in the name of good, getting to see Obi-Wan finally get over that hump, become that Jedi Master again, get a renewed purpose in life, getting to see the path be
And
established,
bring
and
renewed
Leia,
purpose
yeah,
to other people, like Haja.
getting Haja, seeing him, and just having this group of characters be established as the future. Obi-Wan says that in the episode, I'm not the future, you are the future. And you could say he's referring to Leia, but he's also referring to every single person on that ship, whether it be Roken, Haja, anyone else. The kid from the X-Wing books that if Don was here, he would, I forgot his name. But
Orin Horn.
Horn, yeah. Every single one of those can be described as the future. And I think that message that they were sending in the show was just a great one. And I'm very excited to see if we get to see their stories told further. The one thing that I am fully rooting for is I want Vivian Lyra Blair to grow up with this role. I want, if they do any teenage Leia stories, like if they adapt Princess of Alderaan per se, or if they do anything with that era of Leia in it, I want her to come back and play the role. Like you could very obvious, like if you want in Andor, if you want a younger Leia or an older Leia to show up, you can cast someone like Millie Bobby Brown has been fan cast as Leia for years. You could do that. But I would love to see her come back to the role in a couple of years as an older Leia, like in the Junior Senate. Because she is, like, she embodied the role just as much as Carrie did, in my mind. Like, she was a young...
But I would not be shocked
Leia.
if Lucasfilm did not touch Leia.
I mean...
Like
they are very sensitive on
not
recasting.
young, not like young Leia, but like
the equivalent of Solo, like Alden Han. I can see it because I think they might be a little nervous. But I think if you're gonna have someone that's actually played the character before do it again, it might be a bit different. And I think that the reception for young Leia was so great here, and it wasn't like Jake Lloyd as Anakin. And it wasn't even like people loved Alden as Han, but there were still some people like, well, that wasn't Harrison, so I don't know how I feel. I didn't really see any of that for young Leia here, so I feel like it might be a little different. And I just think that they need to stop with this deep fake shit. Like it's cool, like when I get to see Luke, like it's cool and all, but don't do that for every character.
It's weird.
It is a little weird. It is like, okay, so we're just gonna keep using these characters from 40 years ago and not have new people play them. We're gonna have the same actor. Like, I don't want a deep faked Harrison Ford showing up in like Mando. Like, I would just rather it be a aged up Alden Ehrenreich, or just have it be Alden. Like, you have these actors, people like them in their roles. People aren't going to, like, yes, I think Carrie in 9 was a unique situation. I think it would have been a little jarring if they did recast her role. And I think, in my mind, it was a lose-lose scenario with the Carrie Fisher stuff in Rise of Skywalker and how it ended up turning out. Because either way, it was going to feel a bit weird. But that's what happens when someone dies before the movie even starts production. Like, you're gonna have weird things like that. But like, I personally like if such a thing happens again, I would just recast because people, yes, they love the actors that bring these characters to life, but they love these characters too. Like you don't see people in the animated stuff if it's like Matt Lanner voicing Anakin. You don't people say, "Oh, that's not Anakin." I don't know who that character is. It's taking away my enjoyment of the character because it's someone else voicing the role. And yeah, it's a bit different in live action. But like if you're able to enjoy these characters in all these different mediums, yes, the actor is always going to be attached to the character in some way, but the character's legacy is always going to live on. We've seen this in comic book movies for years. How many people have we had play Batman or Superman or Spider-Man at this point? And yet we all consider them to be those characters. So I just think there's going to come a point where if you're going to keep doing these legacy characters for years and years and years, which at some point I might say, maybe don't. But if you're going to keep wanting to tell stories in these eras, you're going to have to eventually use different actors. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing if they put in a good performance and they embody the character and they get the seal of approval from the original actor, which you don't always need. But like Alden got it from Harrison Ford. Billy D gave it to Glover. So why is that an issue? Like, I just think that's one of the things that Lucasfilm was doing right now, where they're taking the wrong message from Solo underperforming and other stuff like that. Like, oh, that means they don't want other people in these roles. No, it's like, maybe release the movie at a different time, where it wasn't 2 weeks after Infinity War and 6 weeks after your last Star Wars movie. Then 6 months, not 6 weeks.
I truthfully do not think it was a problem that it was released 6 months after Last Jedi. I don't think that's such a bullshit reason.
I think it's the fact that it was 2 weeks after Avengers is the big thing for me.
Yeah,
and a week after
2 weeks after Avengers, and they definitely needed to push it back. This whole like 6 months after Last Jedi thing, just it feels like such a cop out to me. It's like that's bullshit.
It's that, and
like,
then people knew
like,
that
come on.
There was like
Marvel
behind-the-scenes
movies
problems.
Get released like every Marvel movie gets like there's like 2 months a new Marvel movie comes out, no one has an issue. 6 months between 2 Star Wars movies, God forbid.
Yeah,
and
no one has an issue there.
The whole like they're 2 different franchises. Yeah, they are. But like 6 months between 2 movies, you can fucking wait.
But even with like the Disney Plus stuff, how many Marvel shows are we getting this year? Like 6? How many Star Wars shows are we getting? Like 2?
Yeah.
2, 3, if you count
it's
Tales
like,
of the Jedi. So like, again, they're prioritizing stuff, and yeah, I think they're trying to play it safe with a lot of the film development with Star Wars because of how Rise was received. But I mean, at some point you're gonna have to make movies again. So like, I think they are. But like, when is Taika's coming out? Because I don't think it's making the release date. If it's what he claims and he hasn't even finished the script yet, there's no way that's getting released at the end of next year.
Like
that's
Taika's
just not
bullshit.
I mean, it's Taika. So like literally anytime he says anything, he's
probably bullshit.
That
shit's probably
when
finished.
People got pissed over I forgot Natalie Portman was in Star Wars. I'm like, have you ever listened to Taika talk at any point? Like, I sounded like, okay, he's fucking with her. But everyone was like, how dare he disrespect an entire trilogy? It's like, dude, have you heard any interview or seen anything that this man has ever made in his life?
They literally talked about Jar Jar Binks later on in the interview.
Is sarcastic 24/7. Again, we went on a bit of a tangent there. But my love for little Leia can be described in such a way of, like I said, she is Carrie in every way to me. From her introduction, it just felt like just her going back and forth with her cousin on Alderaan in the first episode. That was spitting image of
absolutely bodying him.
Yeah, bodying him. Her in the forest, I was like, that's Anakin's daughter. And then we got introduced to my favorite new Disney merchandise cow, Lola. Oh,
Lola.
What a great introduction. I'm so glad. I was worried when Reva put the tracking beam in her that Lola was gonna die in episode 5, and she stayed alive. And Leia just very easily was like, "Oh, what's that?" and then took it out, and then it was fine. I was like, "Oh, thank goodness." She was great, and her relationship with Obi-Wan, like I said, aside from the Vader stuff with Kenobi, was the best part of the show for me. How much Leia had a role in Obi-Wan getting over the hump and truly becoming himself again because of how much he cared for this young girl that, like, Bail confronted him in the first episode. He was like, my commitment is to the boy, but what about his sister? She's just as important. And that is so true. And we see that
I
on
love
full
that
display.
line.
Yeah, just, okay, for getting Jimmy Smits back, like, yeah, he was in Rogue One. But getting Jimmy Smits back was, I thought, so rewarding. Like, it was just as special to me. Like, obviously, it wasn't as huge as getting Ewan or Hayden back. But
Jimmy
getting, like, Joel
Smits as
Edgerton,
Bail
Jimmy
Organa.
Smith, like, I've always loved Bail, man. So, getting him back
Bail is one of
has
the
been
most
awesome.
underappreciated
One of the
characters for
most.
me. Like, I just don't know why. I severely underappreciate him, even now.
Well,
I
don't
don't
worry.
know what it is.
I'm fairly certain he'll be
I think I'm
showing
just
up.
big on the Jedi and Force stuff.
Yeah, me
So.
too. But I'm fairly certain he'll be showing up in August. So we'll see him again.
For sure.
He's 100% showing up in Andor. They just, maybe not this season, but at some point he will definitely be showing up. I think that's a given, considering the fact that he was pretty big in Rogue One, so it would make sense. But yeah, I loved everything with Leia.
Yep.
I loved the Reva stuff. The path, like I said, what it establishes for this narrative in the universe. Our fallen Tala, she saved or took or sacrificed her life for the path for Obi-Wan. I was really loving her.
Look, all I'm saying,
Here we go.
All I am saying is this. If you put Tala, Hera, and Leia in a room together,
that's it.
There is no Galactic Civil War. There is no Galactic Empire.
That's
there is
not
no
where
Emperor
I thought you were
Palpatine.
going.
It is all
but I'm glad you went with that.
It is all no. That's where I was going. 100%. It's all just original trilogy. Don't know
Done.
her. Sequels. Don't know her. It would have just been A New Hope.
Yeah.
It just would have been A New Hope.
I will definitely agree with you there. I think you put those three together, and the Empire. What Empire? Like, it's gone.
What Empire?
What Empire? I meant to bring this up with the Cody stuff, but we can kind of throw it back to Tala or even Roken. Because a lot of what they had planned for Cody in the movie was he was redeemed at this point, took out his chip, and he was going to be guarding Luke on Tatooine while Obi-Wan went off. And I think that would have been cool. But I think I said when I did a TikTok about this when the news first came out, I said I think they're going to save most of Cody's story in that was planned for Kenobi and are moving it to this season of Bad Batch, because what we got in the trailer. I hope that means that Dave is not going to kill him in this season, but I wouldn't be shocked because pain. Do you think that at some point in the Bad Batch we could see Tala or Roken or even Reva appear for an episode or two? Because a lot of the early portions of the Bad Batch so far are finding these unlikely allies.
I personally don't see the Inquisitorius showing up. Most likely it would probably be either Roken or Tala, because like we obviously don't know how much time has passed, because they did say at the Bad Batch panel via live tweets for those who weren't there, unfortunately, that some time has passed. If I had to guess, probably like a year or two. So
I mean, Omega looks
probably
older. So, yeah, I mean, Inquisitors, that was just me spitballing. Like, you're probably right. You're probably not going to see Inquisitors show up because aside from Gunji, there are no real Jedi in the show that we know
other
of yet.
Force user characters.
Unless Cal
Yeah.
shows up at some point. But
No,
I think if you had the opportunity to do it, it
No.
would have been in the Baraka episode. But like I said, though, whether it's Bad Batch or something else, I think there are ample areas, Jedi Survivor being one of them, that a lot of these characters can be brought into different stories.
concepts.
Yeah, concepts and
Like,
everything.
I will not be shocked if the path does show up in Jedi Survivor. I'm expecting it.
I
kind
won't
of.
be shocked if at D23 we get some type of continuation announcement. Not necessarily a season 2, but like a path story, because that's not something you could have announced at Celebration, because we didn't know what the path was at that point.
Nope.
So if you're like, all right, like kind of like their version of Book of Boba Fett, so like the path, an Obi-Wan Kenobi story, is coming Disney Plus 2024 or something like that. I could see that happening, because we really don't know what's going to happen at D23. A lot of people are speculating that it's just going to be Indy 5 for the most part. And then maybe some Mando stuff, maybe something with Tales of the Jedi. I'm not, because it's in August, early September, something like that. So
I can't remember.
because Comic-Con I think is this week, but I don't think we're gonna get any Star Wars announcements at all. We're gonna get some Marvel stuff definitely, but I think Star Wars is off the boat. But yeah, I think in terms of, we've talked about the narrative, we've talked about the characters, their journeys. Are there any aspects of the series that maybe didn't work for you as much as you were hoping, or you thought just straight up fell flat? Or is there anything
Just some of the production value. That's basically
I'll
it.
agree
That's
with
all I
you.
can think of.
Natalie Holt's score, I will say, I don't think it fell flat. I haven't had the time to revisit it,
Also true.
but I think
I have revisited it, and it's not like it's solid.
Yeah. There
but
are
it's not
really
like
high
sort of-
highs, and I wouldn't say there are any bad tracks, but a lot of the other stuff just kind of was there. Like, it didn't enhance anything. It was just around. Like, it was background music.
That's
now,
the best way to
Obi-Wan's
put it, I
theme
think.
is one of my new favorite pieces. I love that. And-
Obi-Wan's theme is phenomenal.
And again, whenever we see Kenobi again, when that hits, I'm gonna be losing it, because whether it's him alive or him as a Force ghost, you play the first few notes of that theme, I'll be gone. Like, that'll be it. And the fact that this is John Williams' more than likely final contribution to Star Wars, I think to have it be one of his best character tracks that he's ever made is just, what a way to go out, man. And again, I am so excited.
What a way to just end your legacy.
You just write a theme for my all-time favorite character and have it be amazing. And the fact that 45 years of Star Wars and Obi-Wan never had a theme before, like the Force theme was originally written
but it
for
kind of
Ben,
sort of,
but then it became the Force theme.
The Force theme. Like, he had a theme, and then it was like,
like,
we'll make it the Force theme.
It's like, it's reverse of what happened. Like, the Imperial March was for the Empire, and then it just kind of became associated with Vader. It's the reverse of that.
Yep.
But again, everything with Vader, everything with Hayden, perfect. The sheep,
I haven't talked about him today,
spotting
but like,
at the
Vader
end of episode 6.
Phenomenal.
Vader, the way that they did Vader in the show, I have no complaints with. Like,
it was perfect.
They used Hayden in a great way.
I don't want to say perfect, because nothing's ever perfect, but like, it's damn good.
They made him menacing as hell.
They made him menacing, but sort of still like you could get the sense that there was this little boy trapped in underneath.
Yeah. They did the best job in live action for me of making Anakin and Vader seem like the same person. Was what they did in this show. They not only with the scene in the finale with the slashed helmet, but just everything else.
That is a wonderful end cap to it.
Yeah. And then just the first, just remembering back to episode 2, that first reveal when Reva was like, Anakin is still alive, and you see Vader for the first time in that Bacta tank, getting to see Hayden back again for the very first time since Revenge of the Sith. Holy shit. It was such a great moment. And I mean, overall, like, I thoroughly enjoyed every episode of the series. I thought it started great. I thought it ended great. I did have my favorites. I think the finale is my favorite episode of the series, with episode 5 being a close second. And I don't think I really have a least favorite, because all of them, like, there would be ones that I would rank at the bottom by default, but all the episodes worked for me. I know episode 4 didn't hit for some people, but I really enjoyed it, because a lot of the stuff in that episode I thought was going to be the finale, and they did it midway through the series, and I just loved the whole storming the fortress and all that stuff, and then that ending moment with Leia was so beautiful to me.
Yep.
So I
said it on the recap, and I'll say it again. If I had a nickel for every time a Jedi stormed Fortress Inquisitorius to rescue somebody, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it's happened
weird
twice.
that it's happened twice. I thoroughly enjoyed everything.
I really hope Cal meets Roken. I really hope so, because I need to see that conversation. Like, we could have used you, man.
Look,
like, shit.
Cal's already met Saw Gerrera. He's already met Chief Tarful. Make Roken one of those guys that just shows up in everything like those two do now. Like, I'd be fine with it. Like,
yeah, I still can't believe Cal met Tarful. That's fucking wild.
Awesome. I can't believe that Tarful's actually in stories now. Like, that's just
I know.
really cool to me. We get other Wookiee characters that aren't Chewie. Like, please.
Dude, I hope he's in Bad Batch season 2, because
so
I think in the trailer they did a quick cut to another Wookiee, and I could have sworn, I'm like, that has to be Tarful.
What has he shown up in anything else besides Fallen Order lately, or is it just that?
No, I think that's it. Yeah,
maybe,
let me.
Yeah,
Google
maybe I'm
this,
forgetting
actually.
something, but I mean,
I
just remember I have such a unique experience with Tarful, because I remember he was one of the first like Star Wars figures I ever got was a Tarful from the Revenge of the Sith line, and I still have that freaking figure. I was like, who the hell is this? Like, this isn't Chewie. And then I remember seeing him in Revenge of the Sith, and he became like one of my Glup Shittos before I knew what a Glup Shitto was. So yeah, it looks like
Clone Wars, Fallen Order is
Fallen Order and Revenge of the Sith. Yeah,
Fallen Order is the only post Revenge of the Sith content Tarful has appeared in. So
he appeared in a flashback in Crimson Reign 3, but yeah, that's it. So, but he was in Lego Skywalker Saga. I was fucking droids up with him.
And he was in that Trandoshan episode of Clone Wars where Ahsoka was being hunted by Trandoshans.
That's right, that was him. That episode, I can't wait to get to that arc. That's such a weird arc. Such a weird arc.
I love.
But
I
get
love
to
that
see
arc.
Wookiees. That's the one thing I'll always say is, I hope eventually they can figure out how to animate Wookiees in a way that doesn't look super like off-putting. But at least Gungi looks really cool. So when they make him tiny, it's perfect.
Yep.
But yeah, overall, I'd say we've talked about quite a bit. Before I wrap things up, I just have to say, Beru White Sun Lars, you are an absolute badass. If you were not, I mean, there's a reason why we didn't see the Lars family get burned alive in A New Hope, because they put up such a fight that they had no choice but to blow the whole damn thing up. So much respect to Owen and Beru. Again, he is my own in the finale, still sticks with me. And then the memes from the first episode, I still can't get over. They're like, you trained his father? And then Owen leading up to the perfect hello there. Just everything great. I have like that finale. That finale.
I did not think those were his first words. I did not think those were gonna be his first words to Luke for some reason. I'm like, what are his first words gonna be?
First words are that,
Awaken
and then the first thing we see him say to Luke in A New Hope, "Hello there."
He actually doesn't say it to Luke.
Oh, he says
It's
it's R2D2. Whoops. All right. Well,
Yeah,
I just
it's
retconned A
something
New
I
Hope.
always forget too.
I just retconned A New
Mandela
Hope,
effect.
guys. Sorry.
Ah, shit.
Breaking canon. Well, he
Yep.
doesn't remember owning a droid, so it's okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, now that I just lost my credibility, and that would have been a point I lost in the original trilogy trivia contest. That finale was peak Star Wars for me. So
Yep.
I just loved it, and I have had such a great time talking about this show again. I cannot wait to rewatch. I'm definitely going to do a full rewatch before Andor. And when I do my next rewatch of the prequels, it's going to go 1, 2, 3, and then straight into Kenobi. Because I think that's just the way I'm going to rewatch the franchise now. Is this more than Mando,
This is 3.5.
more than Boba Fett, more than even Clone Wars, I think is in like my entrenched in my saga rewatching now, because I think it just fits so well. Like you said, it's 3.5. It is the perfect continuation of Revenge of the Sith, the perfect lead into A New Hope, and I can't wait to watch it again. I had such a great thing, and thank you so much, Ewan, for coming back for this, and thank you, Deborah Chow, for bringing this show to life. I hope you get another show or a film in your future in a galaxy far, far away, because everything she's touched, in my mind, in Star Wars has turned to gold. So, more of that, please. So, I think we've gone a little shorter than we normally do, but I think it seems like the right point to wrap things up. Thank you so much for joining us for our very late but still needed full series recap of Obi-Wan Kenobi here on the For the Republic podcast. Next time you see us, we will be right back talking about the Clone Wars as God intended. We'll be talking the Nute Gunray arc, which is Bombad Jedi, Cloak of Darkness, and Lair of Grievous. Hopefully that'll be coming to you guys sometime next week, where we'll have the full crew back, hopefully, to talk some Clone Wars once again. Connor, we talked about some of the stuff that you've been up to earlier in the episode, but where can the good people find you before we head out of here?
The good people can find me Twitter at DepaBanana. I also co-host another podcast called Knights of the Nerd Republic. It's part of the Nerd Academy podcast network per se. You can find us Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, pretty much wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find us there. And then you can find me writing articles, which I haven't written in forever, and stories, which I'm still working on, over at sweditorIG.com. I work with a wonderful team of creatives where we add our own stuff and our own stories to the Star Wars canon while also honoring said Star Wars canon. If you're not in the Discord, I don't know when this episode will come out, but on July 23rd, this upcoming Saturday, we do have an SWE announcement day where we're going to be announcing some pretty cool things that we have planned.
You said the 23rd?
Be on the lookout for that. The 23rd of July.
I'll have to be in the server that day when I'm not working, because I'm very excited to see what is announced. Yeah, so you guys can follow me at Starlight Andrew on Twitter and TikTok. You can also follow the podcast at For the Repub Pod, and on Instagram at For the Republic Pod. Also check out SWE, the Discord server and the website. I plan on getting something written up soon. Probably after I finish up my summer classes, but I want to get more focused on writing again. Getting some quality content out there for all you people. And Austin hopefully will make a guest appearance on the show soon. He was supposed to, breaking the fourth wall here, he was supposed to join us today, but had to cancel at the last minute, so I hope you're doing all right, man. Hope to see you on the show soon. But yeah, so join us next time. We'll be talking about more Clone Wars, and yeah, it'll be fun. So hope you join us then. But until then, may the Force be with you always.